We've just seen two focal points coming out, which are really worth talking about when it feeds into Australia's petrol situation, the crisis that some people are talking about. First of all, we've seen Donald Trump address the nation, the world. Hasn't really given us anything new. Certainly hasn't given us that time frame about pulling out sooner rather than later that the optimists would have liked to have seen. Hasn't said anything about Hormuz at all. And that's really a major important point. But we've also seen Jim Chalmers, the Australian Treasurer, saying that they're going to cut another 6 cents a litre from the excise tax. That takes full contributions in the cut to about 32 cents a litre, which to the cynics out there, you would say, well, cutting and making the price of fuel cheaper when we're coming into a major supply issue where we're actually going to get the fuel doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But I mean, certainly any kind of saving is a good situation. Now, the problem that we've got here in Australia, and while we have seen the excise tax being cut, while we've seen free public transport in Australia, is really about the real factor, and that's the Strait of Hormuz and the fact that we are the very end of the supply chain. Now, if we have a look at this diagram here, this chart here, basically it shows the activity going through the Straits of Hormuz, and you can see it's really collapsed from really around 70 tankers a day, 140 if you include the dry shipment cargo going through, to really about sort of 1 or 2 vessels going through a day. Now, that's really important for us in Australia because 85% of crude and product, refined product, which we talk as jet fuel, as we talk about gasoline, diesel, automotive fuel, is imported into Australia. So we import the large bulk of those particular energy needs. Now, specifically, 97% of those imports come from Asia. And Asia get those through the Middle East, through the Straits of Hormuz. Now, with the Straits of Hormuz effectively being closed, either through insurance purposes or because of various threats through the channels, the last of those ships have now made its way to Asia. And really what we're doing now is those countries are chewing through their inventories at a rapid rate of knots. We've seen China looking to cut back on exports going out. That's important for us in Australia because that's where we get most of our jet fuel. Singapore is a good spot. We might get most of our automotive fuel from Singapore. They've got very high inventory levels, but there will be a tipping point where their inventories pull back to a certain extent, and they're going to struggle to meet the exports going forward, and that's going to cut back as well to us. South Korea is where we get most of our diesel products through as well. So there will be a point, given that no ships are going to the Asian countries, they'll get through their inventories where they'll say, we're going to have to cut back on supplying Australia with those product needs, which we so desperately need. Now, the problem is in Australia, we do have inventories. Those inventories are kept in storage. We've got the equivalent of about 39 days worth of net import cover going through. So those shipments get curtailed, we get through those inventories, and we will get to a point where we're going to have a big scarcity coming through. And probably by the end of May, we're going to be hitting a hard deadline. So the thing is while we've seen these cuts, we've seen these excise cuts with these free transportation links in Australia, certainly in Victoria, it goes without saying that we're going to have to see more draconian measures to address the usage. That's going to be a bigger concern for small and medium enterprise businesses who go out and get sized quantities of diesel. And of course, being in that situation, addressing the situation is very, very prudent, thinking about what could be. So the problem for Australia is the Straits of Hormuz. We're at the end of the supply chain. There's a lag effect. It takes time to get to Asia. It then takes time to get to Australia. And that's where we are at the moment. We are a big net importer of those energy needs. We have very low inventories. And so we do expect, unless the Strait of Hormuz opens sometime soon, which is looking pretty doubtful at the moment, that we are going to see more draconian measures placed to address the usage going forward. So really what we're seeing today, very important situation. We're planning ahead, planning for the worst, hoping for the best, and that's the situation that we need to be prudent about. So very important situation playing through today.